is day 2 of the GTA's relentless heat wave, and we are very close to reaching a high not seen in 10 years. Our coverage of this record-breaking heat begins in moments.
The mayor apologizing for the closure of some pools in the midst of this sweltering heat. This after some lifeguards said that they needed to cool down and take time off work yesterday. Doug Ford even weighing in, calling it a poor excuse. We got reaction.
Also tonight, Ontario Provincial Police tracked down the alleged killer in the decades-old murder of a 40-year-old woman in Peterborough. How DNA testing may have led to this breakthrough.
Plus, looking around the world, Canada urging citizens in Qatar to exercise a high degree of caution after Iranian missiles target an American base in a retaliatory strike. We have the latest on this intensifying conflict.
You're watching Live at 5.
Hello, I'm Andrew Brennan.
And I'm Lena Latafat. Thanks so much for joining us and welcome to Live at 5. The scorching heat continues in Toronto and across southern Ontario, with Environment Canada describing conditions as dangerous. The weather agency also forecasting a high of 36 degrees today.
Now, CP24's Melissa Duggan joining us live with more on the blistering heat and how it's impacting people in the city. Melissa, are you able to take your cooling breaks?
We are hanging out in the shade here in Midtown. Find that shade wherever you can today. How's this for the first Monday of summer? Environment Canada has been warning about this heat warning since the weekend, with highs between 33 to 36 degrees with that humidex much, much hotter, feeling more like 46. Whew, a sweaty one today. We do have some good news for Midtown, by the way. A short time ago, we got an update from Toronto Hydro saying that the power has been restored in this neighborhood. It was out this afternoon after we heard from Hydro One saying there were issues with one of its transmission stations that was feeding power to a Toronto hydro system. Well, that has since been fixed. There were some 2,700 people without power during the afternoon on the hottest day of the year so far. This power outage was also affecting TTC service with no subway service at Summer Hill Station. But that is now back up and running. Power has since been restored to this neighborhood. So turn on that AC if you can. And you really want to take some special precautions today. This kind of heat can have some negative effects, no matter your age, no matter your health conditions. You do want to stay hydrated. We were hearing today from a meteorologist with Environment Canada breaking down just how the heat can affect your health. Have a listen.
It really means that anybody who's outside is at risk of heat illness. So heat stroke, heat exhaustion, those things are very real concerns for anybody who's outside. In particular, people who are especially susceptible, who have pre-existing conditions that may be aggravated by these temperatures and humidity.
A sweltering school day for kids and teens across the region, of course, having to go to school, their final few days of school, having to deal with this heat warning. We were hearing from the TDSB today about some of the steps that are being taken to make sure that kids are safe, because we got another hot day on the way tomorrow. And really, we're not going to see much relief until Thursday. So here's some of what they're calling common sense approach that they've been working on since the weekend.
Keep the blinds down, keep the lights off, open the windows. A lot of the classrooms have fan, turn on the fan. I mean, it's a difference. We have almost 600 schools. So some of our schools do have some level, some have full air conditioning. Some have some level of air conditioning. The cooling center idea is a really important one. Every single TDSB school has a cooling center, and that can take its shape by air-conditioned library or going to the gym, wherever kids can find some relief.
It is still going to stay pretty warm overnight tonight. We're looking at a low of 25 degrees, so not much in the way of relief. Again, until about Thursday, that's when the mercury finally starts to dip, giving us that relief. And another kind of tidbit of advice we've been hearing: if you know anyone who is vulnerable, reach out to them, make sure that they are okay. And I want to tell you, we just got someone reaching out to us, making sure we're okay here, Alina and Andrew. A lovely woman just down the street yelling out, say, hey, you guys want a popsicle? It's really hot out there. Just want to make sure you're okay. So it pays to be kind to those around you today. Back to you.
Oh, love that.
It really
Melissa.
does. Next time, share.
Melissa, thanks so much. I want to point out now, we're sitting at 36 degrees. That means we have hit a temperature record. The last time the city saw a temperature this high was a decade ago. So this heat is relentless. It is intense. And that's exactly what Mayor Olivia Chow was asked about when she apologized today. This after some of the city's outdoor pools were closed yesterday as residents were trying to find some relief from this extreme heat.
Now, our own Beatrice Baseman has been asking people how they're keeping cool, but also trying to get to the bottom of what happened yesterday. Beatrice.
Extremely frustrating, Andrew and Lena, for a lot of people who were counting on using the city's pools to actually get some relief from the heat. Yesterday was a scorcher. Today, thankfully, all of the pools are now open. This is a Sunnyside Gus Ryder pool. It is very, very busy. No lineup yet, but it is absolutely packed. Tough to find a spot on the periphery of the pool. But I can tell you that certainly everyone here is happy to have somewhere to get some relief from this heat. There's a nice breeze coming off the lake as well. It's certainly a lot more manageable right here than it is inland in the city without having the water nearby. But it's a stark contrast to what we saw yesterday when there was a number of city pools that were closed intermittently. 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, and it was to allow city staff to get some reprieve from the heat. The mayor today apologizing for it, saying it is unacceptable to have pools closed in the middle of a heat wave. Here's more from the mayor.
We noticed that as temperatures rose, health and safety standards came into effect that closed a few pools. We apologize for that. This cannot happen again. When it's hot outside, residents need to be able to get out to the pools and cool down. And imagine if you're just getting to the pool and then you find, even though it's a small number, that you find it closed, or that you're in the middle in the pool, you're just there for 5 minutes and you're told that you have to leave. That's why, as a mayor, I've directed staff to open pools longer hours and earlier.
Here at the Sunnyside pool, actually, there was a handwritten note taped to the front door yesterday saying it was too hot for city staff to work outside. City staff saying the intermittent closures were necessary to let lifeguards cool down after provincial requirements related to heat and humidex levels once the mercury exceeds 45 degrees. Today, the premier also providing some blistering comments about what happened, saying he thought it was a poor excuse, suggesting why can't the lifeguards jump in the pool to get a little bit of reprieve from the heat. But for families who don't have air conditioning or have very little way to cool off at home, this is where they come to get that reprieve. And so here's a bit of what I heard from some of the people out here outside of Sunnyside Pool today.
We made it to the High Park pool, where they have worked out a way to open the pool in 30 minutes increments, and then they had like a 45-minute break between them so that staff could have their, cool down time and people still could get in and just cool off a bit too. I think it was smart. It was very nice crisis management on their part.
My daughter works as a rink guard in the winter, and they do 30 minutes on and 30 minutes off so that they don't get frostbite. So I'm not sure why they're not doing that with the lifeguards. They should be able to tolerate the heat for 30 minutes. It's not that long.
Why would you close a pool on the hottest day? Because there's so much more people who would have been experiencing any sort of heat stroke or something like that because of the heat, right? So why not have some sort of reprieve available for them? And why couldn't the lifeguards also partake in the pool activities as well,
The mayor saying the city kind of looking at reallocating resources to have more lifeguards in to kind of do a rotation, give some of them a break, but very frustrating yesterday. The mayor had some splaining to do today. Thankfully, the pool behind me, it is open today, and lots of people taking nice cool dips. Many pools around the city, by the way, open till 11 o'clock tonight. Back to you guys.
All right. Beatrice, thanks so much for this. Let's talk to Dr. Andrew Buzari now about how to protect the city's most vulnerable in the midst of this heat wave. Dr. Buzari is a physician and executive director at University Health Network. Always good to see you. Thanks so much for joining us. We just broke a 10-year heat record in this city, Dr. Buzari. It's now 36 degrees out. I want to point out that it feels like 43. What are you hearing from advocates like yourself?
Yeah, thank you, Lena. I mean, I think when, we're seeing that's playing out on the front lines is that, heat and what we've heard about pools being closed and this really record-setting month of the humidity in June, it's not just uncomfortable, it can be a deadly situation for people. I mean, we have to remind ourselves when we look at some of the heat waves that have played out through BC in 2021, there are over 600 preventable deaths. We've seen this in 2011 in Ontario. And Health Canada has been reporting that over the last 2 decades, we've seen about a 20 to 25% increase in heat-related deaths. So this is a terribly dire issue. It's a serious issue when we're talking about 150 preventable deaths a year due to heat-related exposure. And again, what I think needs to be clear is that yes, it's important for access to pools, and I can sense all the frustration that's out there with city staff trying to do their best with pools and cooling centers. But this is really about climate change and poverty and housing coming together in a perfect storm when we have increasing temperatures and humidity. And it really is, some of our youngest folks, some of the older folks and patients that really bear the brunt of this, and especially people who are unhoused or living in low-income settings without air conditioning.
Well, Dr. Bazari, the mayor alluded to some of those institutional and societal problems in her apology today. Yeah. However, she did say that she wants to look at reviewing Toronto's heat strategy. You referenced BC, where the coroner there, unlike Ontario's, actually does track heat-related deaths. When you look at the strategies that must be changed, the city may be looking at bringing back cooling centers, but what are we missing here, or what is going to potentially help save lives?
Yeah, so it's a great question. And I think when you look at the data, it's really important when we look at low-income housing or Toronto community housing and other social housing options, we've not seen a retrofitting of air conditioning for these units. I think the latest report in the Toronto Star is that over 5,600 units do not have access to air conditioning. So when you look at the BC data of tracked deaths, the most vulnerable or structurally vulnerable are older adults that are living in low-income settings with a myriad of comorbidities, whether that's mental health and physical health like schizophrenia, COPD and asthma or heart failure. So it's really important that, one, we ensure for individuals that are living in low-income housing, especially seniors, that they get access to air conditioning programs. I think there's been a pilot that was recently announced in May, which I think is really pivotal. I think we need to see that scaled in the thousands to make sure that many and all can access air conditioning, especially if they're high risk. And then I think, the mayor's statement is right to say, let's look at expanding cooling centers. What is the integrated approach that needs to be there to warn people in advance, and also make sure that we're seeing adequate cooling spaces that are not just in public spaces where we know there's been real pushback, where we've seen a rise in people who are unhoused resorting to living outside, being relegated to living outside. We need to make sure there's more inclusive spaces across the city, especially in some of these high needs and high risk neighborhoods.
Okay, Dr. Andrew Bazari, we're grateful for your voice and your perspective. Thanks so much for this. 5:13, 36 degrees. Let's get a check on that sweltering drive now, shall we? Adjo and Siayabwa keeping a close eye on that. How's it going out there, Adj?
Oh, it is not going. Traffic is not moving on most of the major area highways. So many problems happening. I'll get right to them, Lena. We have issues on the Niagara-bound lanes of the QEW, downside of the Burlington Skyway. A collision involving a truck which lost a wheel and ended up hitting another vehicle. So that is the reason why traffic is not moving from Burloak. And then eastbound at 401, just as you make your way on the approach to Dixon Martin Grove, center lane blocked with a stall. Another stall, eastbound 41 collectors approaching the DVP 404. That one's in the right lane, and the long-standing problems on the eastbound 41 Express continue at Whites Road. Collision cleanup still in those two right lanes, and we had problems and they cleared. Westbound 41 collectors at Victoria Park gone. We are dealing with a grass fire outside of camera view on the 407 westbound. Just as you make your way through Bronte, all lanes are blocked. I'll send it back to you.
This CP24 traffic report is brought to you by 407 ETR. Enjoy the journey with a stress-free commute.
And oh boy, is it hot out there. What? 43 degrees with humidity. You're watching Live at 5. Keep cool and come back in a few minutes. A man facing charges for a cold case murder in Peterborough, nearly 40 years old.
Yeah, our crime analyst Steve Ryan will join us right after this with more on this investigation. We'll be right back. Welcome back. A man convicted of murdering a Toronto couple in the early 90s has been charged in a cold case murder near Peterborough.
David Alexander Snow was arrested and later convicted in the murders of Ian and Nancy Blackburn in 1992. Now provincial police say that he is the same person who has been charged now with first-degree murder in the death of 40-year-old Angeline Josephine Quinnell, who was found dead in Apsley in 1991. Snow now is 70 years old. He was charged last Thursday in her death. The OPP says that his arrest represents an important step towards providing answers to the woman's family and to the community of Apsley.
I do know that he's currently convicted of more than 20 charges, including the 92 murders of Ian and Nancy Blackburn and multiple counts of kidnapping and sexual assaults.
Let's bring in our crime analyst, Steve Ryan, to help us break down what's going on here. Steve, what is the first thing that sort of jumps out of you at this investigation?
The fact that this man is now charged with killing a third person. So by definition, that would meet the definition of a serial killer, which often is simply 2 or more murders with a break in between. So there's a year in between these homicides. So that could make this man a serial killer. And typically, serial killers are driven by a variety of psychological and emotional factors, but the thrill of the kill is often something that is the commonality amongst serial killers in my experience.
That's a fascinating detail there. Something that also jumps out at me, Steve, is the statement that OPP put out today saying that they never stopped investigating this, that this arrest represents an important step towards providing the family and the community with much needed answers. As someone who's been on the other side before, what is that like, that phone call, that breakthrough, breaking the news to the family?
Yeah, so that's a great question. That's the euphoria of investigative work. When you are able to call a family and after almost 4 decades have passed to say, we have answers for you now. There's no such thing as closure. I say that all the time. But there is such a thing as a family wanting answers to help them deal with that tragic loss. So it's great police work by the OPP, and it shows that there's always hope. Never give up if you've lost somebody to a homicide. And it really goes to the tenacity of the investigators and the great work by the Center of Forensic Sciences as well.
DNA evidence, Steve, how big a role would that have played?
So I'm going to guess or suggest that we have no definitive information as to what led them to this charge. But if you just think of common sense, a witness's memory fades over time. So after 4 decades, that may not be the best evidence to bring to court after 40 years has passed. So I would suggest that they have some sort of DNA evidence that's linked this guy to this homicide. And again, it goes back to the work of the CFS for sure.
And something they wouldn't have had in 1991 either. Steve Ryan, our crime analyst, thank you as always. Okay. Steve, we appreciate you. All right, what time is it? 5:19, and it's live at 5, meaning we will be right back. But first.
Yeah, coming up, Iran launches missiles at a U.S. military base in Qatar, escalating the ongoing conflict in the Middle East. We're going to have more on this. Stay with us. Iran has retaliated for the American bombing of its nuclear sites, but is also indicating it is prepared to step back from escalating tensions in the volatile region.
Our own Phil Perkins joins us live with the latest developments. Phil, what are you seeing?
Well, Andrew and Lena, this attack, if you want to call it that, by Iran on the U.S. Army base in Qatar, based in Al Udeid. It's actually quite an important facility for the U.S. It provides command control of air power across the Middle East and the 379th Air Expeditionary Wing, which is the largest fleet in the world. And as Lena mentioned, it is retaliation for America's surprise attack on Sunday morning on 3 nuclear sites in Iran. They're still waiting for a detailed damage report on that, but President Trump has said that they have obliterated it. That is his initial assessment. But also, as you mentioned, Iran has said, while this is an escalation, they are prepared to step back any further attacks. President Trump put out a post on Truth Social. He said, amongst other things, that Iran also used 14 missiles, the same amount of missiles that America used on Sunday on those 3 nuclear sites. But then he went on to say that, he said, most importantly, they've, as in Iran, gotten it out of their system. and there will hopefully be no further hate. I want to thank Iran for giving us early notice, which made it possible for no lives to be lost and nobody to be injured. He goes on to say, perhaps Iran can now proceed to peace and harmony in the region, and I will enthusiastically encourage Israel to do the same. More on that a little bit later. Thank you for your attention on this matter. Now, we also heard from Major General David Fraser on this latest chapter in this ongoing battle in the Middle East. Here's what he had to say.
This is what Iran was expected to do. It looks good in front of their population. They also are alleged to have provided some advance warning that they were going to do this to try to mitigate the threat. So that should be enough at this stage of the game to set the conditions, if the United States accepts that, to bring people back to the table to start talking about how we're going to end this.
Well, now that spat, we don't know if that is over or not, but it's definitely not over between Israel and Iran. They both traded shots today. Israel targeting the gate of a prison in Iran that has housed some political prisoners. And in retaliation, Iran has sent a couple missiles and drones Israel's way that have been shot down. Back to you two.
Okay, incredibly sensitive situation. Phil, thanks so much for this. 524, 36 degrees, feeling like 43 out there. You're watching Live at 5.
An investigation underway after a man fatally shot in the parking lot to the Ajax GO station. Details just ahead. Welcome back. An investigation is underway into the shooting death of a man near the Ajax GO station.
Yeah, for more on this, let's go live now to CTV Toronto's Beth McDonnell. Beth, what can you tell us?
I'm on a pathway just behind the parking garage at the Ajax GO station. Durham Regional Police had this area closed earlier. There was a bike lying on the ground as well as several evidence markers. This pathway goes to GO trains and GO buses. So what police are telling us is that around 11:30 last night, they got a call to help out an ambulance. And when they arrived, they found a man suffering from gunshot wounds. He was taken to a trauma center but did not survive. So this all was discovered around 11:30, but police actually say that they believe this happened between 9 and 10 o'clock, about an hour or an hour and a half before. We're not clear exactly where the shooting took place. We're not exactly sure how busy it was at the time of the events. We do know from police that a train had been passing through around the time that events unfolded. Right now, police are telling us that they're looking for one male suspect that got away on foot. But right now there's no further description, and we're told police are working to notify the victims next of kin.
And that's CTV's Beth McDonnell. Thank you, Beth, for breaking down what we know. Right now it's 5:28. We are approaching 5:29, and it's 43 degrees with the humidity. This is Live at 5.
Coming up, Toronto reaches the highest recorded temperature in nearly a decade as much of the GTA continues to grapple with this heat wave. Stay with us. We'll be right back with more.
It is day 2 of the GTHA's relentless heat wave, and Toronto has reached its highest temperature recorded in at least a decade. Our coverage of this record-breaking heat begins in moments.
And Mayor Olivia Chow apologizes for the closure of some pools in the midst of this sweltering heat wave. This after the city said lifeguards needed to cool down yesterday. Doug Ford weighing in, calling it a poor excuse. We're live with more reaction.
Also tonight, Ontario Provincial Police tracked down an alleged killer in a decades-old murder of a 40-year-old woman outside Peterborough. We'll tell you how DNA testing may have led to this long-awaited breakthrough.
Plus, Canada urges citizens in Qatar to exercise a high degree of caution after Iranian missiles target a U.S. base in a retaliatory strike. We have the latest on the intensifying conflict.
This is Live at 5.
Good evening, and thanks so much for joining us. I'm Lena Latifat.
And I'm Andrew Brennan. Welcome to Live at 5. Let's get to our top story. It is day 2 of our sweltering heat wave, and we're getting an apology from our mayor because of some city pools. Outdoor pools closed over the weekend, with residents trying to find some relief from the extreme heat.
CP24's Beatrice Baseman joins us live with more on what happened and what's being done to prevent it from happening again. Beatrice.
I think it left a lot of people confused, Lena and Andrew. How is it possible that yesterday, on the hottest day of the year so far, the hottest day we've experienced in a long time, the pools, some of them, 5 of them at least, were closed all around the city? We're showing you a live look now of the pool at Sunnyside Beach. This is Gus Ryder Pool. It is absolutely packed. A lot of lifeguards on duty, thankfully, and a lot of people here enjoying this giant pool. It's tough to almost find a spot on the periphery of it to enjoy it. But this is what it's all about in the summer here in the city, about being able to come here to the pool, to the beach, and get some reprieve. As for what happened yesterday, I mean, I think a lot of parents were upset when they came here to Sunnyside. At one point, there was a handwritten note on the door saying that the pool was closed down. The mayor today apologizing for that, saying it shouldn't have happened. She's looking into what happened and is looking at overhauling some of the protocol when it comes to dealing with extreme heat in the city. Of course, any overhaul didn't help all the parents, kids, and families yesterday who were stuck trying to find some of that relief. Today, the premier also offering some blistering words about what happened, saying he's going to get to the bottom of it, saying what he's heard so far sounds like a poor excuse. Here's more from Premier Doug Ford on News Talk 1010.
I'll reach out to the mayor after our phone call and just straighten it out, make sure that she understands that the pool should be open. But again, the province doesn't dictate, no matter if it's Toronto or Peel or Halton or up in Ottawa. I just find it ironic that 5 out of 85 are being closed, but I'm not hearing this anywhere else in the province. So maybe they misinterpreted. I'm not too sure, but let's be clear: the pool should be open for people to cool down.
And so yesterday, city staff saying the intermittent closures were necessary in order to let lifeguards cool down following provincial requirements related to heat and humidex levels exceeding 45 degrees. It didn't happen everywhere, though. I spoke to one mom who, when it was too busy, the line was too long at Sunnyside, went over to the pool at High Park, saying there they were doing intermittent closures. 30 minutes in, 45-minute break for the lifeguards and the staff working, feeling as though that was a good compromise, a good exercise of crisis management, as she said. Others, though, quite upset with what happened yesterday in the city when it comes to the pools. Here's some reaction.
I've read that it's like an issue regarding the staff and their well-being, and I think it's like totally normal, to let people cool off because their work is really important, right? So, but also I think that it would be very nice of the city if they had more staffing in place and if there would be more lifeguards who could provide like a non-stop service for the people in this heat wave.
You got to take care of the people. They're working hard, they're hard-working people. Make sure, this thing is open for the public. So I guess for them to have, normal condition, comfort and avoid dehydration and sunburn will be definitely considered. So I think the city did a good job to, showing that kind of, taking care of them.
Of course, hindsight is always 20/20. The city today in a statement saying it would be deploying additional lifeguards to manage rest and work schedules in the heat to ensure that pools stay open. They are very open, as you can see here at Sunnyside Beach, full and open for families to enjoy. In fact, some of the pools across the city are going to have extended hours tonight to help those manage the heat, going all the way till 11 o'clock tonight. So still plenty of time for both of you to come on down and jump in after your shifts. Back to
Only
you.
if you join us, B.
Yeah,
Are you going to stick around?
She made that
Let's
sound
do
like a
it.
threat.
Why not? Pool party.
I mean,
Yeah.
this is always my favorite way to beat the heat. I love it. Beatrice, meet you there, my friend. Thanks so much.
Bring a boat.
Well, the scorching heat continues in Toronto and across southern Ontario, with Environment Canada describing these conditions as dangerous.
Yeah, we've actually now hit rounding up to 36 degrees Celsius. That last time Toronto saw a temperature this high was a decade ago in 2016.
Yeah, CP24's Melissa Duggan joins us with more on this blistering heat and how it's impacting people in our city. What are you hearing? What are you seeing, Melissa?
Yeah, so Lena and Andrew, just a really early start to this hot weather that we're seeing this summer. You know, hot conditions we might normally see late July, August, and so we're kicking off summer with some of these temps that are going to be in the history books, it seems like now. Today, though, here's some good news. It looks like today is the peak. Things cooling off from here slightly tomorrow, slightly into Wednesday, and then finally some reprieve on Thursday. But tonight, the low going down to 25 degrees. That sounds like a daytime high, so not a lot in terms of relief tonight that you can expect. So you really want to take some extra precautions in terms of staying hydrated, even into the evening. You know, don't let that guard down anytime soon. But of course, we had a pretty chilly spring. So some people really embracing this hot weather and this full blast start to summer. We're getting some reaction. How are people feeling about this weather? Have a listen.
What's not to like? We spend most of our times layered up, you know, let's just enjoy the sun. There are still safe ways to be able to enjoy this beautiful weather.
My kids hate the heat. They can't take it. They go outside, it's like a wall. You know, they've got thick hair. So you get them in the water and you get the hair up and hopefully they're okay.
I feel you with that thick hair. Pull it back in a ponytail if you can today and get plenty of water for sure. That is the advice. Of course, kids still in school. For most of them, we're just winding down the school year. Really got to pull out those shorts and T-shirts for these last remaining days. The TDSB says they are on top of it. They are very well aware that families are sending kids to school right now, dealing with this extreme heat, something that Environment Canada has been calling dangerous, especially when you factor in that humidity when it's feeling like 46 degrees. Yeah, a sweaty day at school. I want to share more of the steps that the TDSB says they are taking to make sure kids are safe. Have a listen.
The key today is common sense, I would say, and intuition. Teachers know kids, we know staff. Everybody's on the lookout for if anybody feels any kind of heat distress. I mean, we've been talking about this at the TDSB all weekend. So everybody is very prepared. Information went out to all our administration this weekend on what to do to keep staff safe, to keep kids safe. So I think it's going okay so far.
Late this afternoon, we did get some good news in Midtown. That's where I am right now. There was a power outage here on the hottest day of the year. So some bad timing there, affecting some 2,700 customers. That includes condo buildings as well. So a pretty big footprint there. We heard from Ontario Hydro One. They said that it was some of their transmission stations that were feeding into Toronto Hydro. That's where the issue was. They've since remedied that. Power is back on now. There was some time, too, where there wasn't subway service at Summerhill Station. That service has resumed. So good news for people in this neighborhood who were without power when they needed that AC the most. Back to you.
Can you imagine being without power in the midst of this oppressive heat?
No, although the AC was off here a couple of hours yesterday, it was not fun. Not fun.
Melissa Duggan reporting live. Thanks so much. And I want to share with our viewers, Andrew Brennan has a cool way of dealing with the heat.
Yeah.
Can I share them?
Oh, of course you can. I don't hide anything.
There you go, Andrew.
Yeah, see, this is perfect size. It fits in my hand. UC powered. Andrew's always cool.
That is, I have to say, that's very smart. Let's get a check on
someone always cool, Adjoa Nsia-Yeboah.
and see what she thinks about this. What do you think of Andrew's methods, Ash?
I love that. I'd like to know where he got it so I can get my own because I don't have that right now. But we have AC in here. But if you're driving, hope you have it in your car. You're going to need it. It's slow on all the major routes. And then adding to the slowdowns, we are dealing with problems on the QBW Niagara bound. This is just as you make your way on the approach to Burloak. It's the center lane out with the stall. From this point, no real relief. The jam-ups continue, and so do the problems. On the Niagara bound QBW, on the downside of the Burlington Skyway, 2 right lanes blocked with a collision. One vehicle lost its axle, hit another vehicle, so this is why it's taking a while to clear this scene. Problems have cleared finally just in time for the end of rush hour. This is the eastbound lanes of the 401, just as you make your way through Whites. At one point, we had all lanes blocked on the eastbound 401 through Whites Road following 2 rollovers involved in a pretty serious collision. Situation cleared, and you know what? I'm going to keep the good news rolling. Paid a bit of extra money, headed towards the 407. East and westbound 407 pretty much blocked between Bronte and Dundas because of grass fires underway. They put those fires out, so those lanes are accessible again. I'll send it back to you.
Thanks very much, Adjoa. It is 5:41. It feels like 43 degrees. It's 36 without the Humidex. That's still too high. You're watching Live at 5.
Well, remembering the victims of Canada's deadliest terror attack. That's a story we're keeping a close eye on. A number of ceremonies were held right here at home to mark the 40th anniversary of the bombing of Air India Flight 182. Stay with us.
Welcome back. A man convicted of murdering a Toronto couple in the early 1990s has now been charged again, but this in a cold case murder near Peterborough.
David Alexander Slow was arrested and later convicted in the murders of Ian and Nancy Blackburn in 1992. Provincial police confirmed to CP24 he's the same person now charged with first-degree murder in the death of 40-year-old Angeline Josephine Quesnel, who was found dead in Apsley in 1991. Snow, now 70 years old, was charged last Thursday in her death. OPP say his arrest represents an important step toward providing answers to the family and the community.
34 years is a long time, and this really just demonstrates that we never close a case. So continuously, we'll retest evidence. We'll go over testimonies over and over again in hopes that something will come up one day, which it did for this case.
And now let's bring in our crime analyst, Steve Ryan. Steve, investigators never stopped looking in this case, but the charge is only coming last week.
Yeah, that's right. So this really does exemplify the mindset of an investigator, and that is tenacity. They never give up. Families who've lost loved ones to murder should never give up hope, because investigators are always working on the cases, and the work that the biologists do now at the Center of Forensic Sciences is remarkable, and they have turned a lot of new techniques into very hard evidence that the police can use to prosecute cases. So this just shows you that you never say never. There's always a chance that these cases will be solved.
Is it fair to call this man a serial killer, Steve?
Yeah, I think so. By definition, he fits the definition, and that is 2 or more killings with a break in between. So if you look at the 2 convictions that he received in the early 90s for the 2 first-degree murder convictions, that would not make him a serial killer. The fact that there was a year in between 3 killings, he's accused of killing this woman in Peterborough in October of 1991, by definition, that would make him a serial killer if he's convicted of this crime.
If he's convicted, yeah.
And one of the big things, DNA evidence, we didn't have that really in the 90s. You're thinking is would be the big change here that could have led to this arrest?
Yeah, I think so. Anytime you get cases that are solved decades later, you can't rely on just witness testimony unless there's exceptional circumstances. Most often it's hardcore evidence, which is DNA. That's your best evidence. And given how it has advanced in this last little while, I would suggest that there is DNA evidence in this case.
And my final question here, what is this man charged with in this latest investigation? And he's probably going to spend the rest of his life behind bars. Is that right, Steve?
Well, he's spending the rest of his life behind bars right now because of the 2 convictions in the mid-90s for the 2 first-degree murders. He was given a life sentence concurrently, so he's serving 1 life sentence for those 2 homicides, and he's been declared a dangerous offender, which means that you're in custody for an indefinite amount of time. So given the fact that he's now charged with a 3rd first-degree murder, if he's convicted of that, I mean, he's not getting it out anyways. Even if he's not convicted of that, I would suggest that having 2 first-degree murder convictions and being declared a DO, he'll never get out.
All right, crime analyst Steve Ryan, thanks for breaking it down, as always.
You got it.
Well, today marks the 40th anniversary of the Air India bombing attack.
All 329 souls on board died that day. Most victims were Canadian. Flight 182 took off from Toronto en route to Mumbai. A bomb planted by a radical group of 6 separatists exploded over the Atlantic Ocean just off the coast of Ireland. Events are being held across the country today to remember the victims.
Initially, that shock evolves over time as you get older and you miss things, and whether it's graduations or marriages, the birth of a child, or big life events, things like that. So you miss them for that reason, but then you miss them for a father figure, for the things that you need advice for as you get older, and even the things that your children miss for their grandfather. So those are all hard things to put in words. It's just really unfortunate. And as time goes on, you don't get over it. You just learn how to cope with it, unfortunately.
And a statement from the Prime Minister, Mark Carney, reads in part, 40 years ago, innocent civilians, including 268 Canadians were killed in the bombing of Air India Flight 182. This terrorist attack remains the deadliest in our country's history, one we must never forget. He goes on to say, Canada will continue to work with our allies and partners at home and around the world to better detect, prevent, and respond to the threat of terrorism and violent extremism.
It's 5:49 on the dot. It's 43 degrees with the humidity. This is Live at 5.
Coming up, Iran launches missiles at a U.S. military base in Qatar, escalating the ongoing conflict in the Middle East. Stay with us.
Welcome back. Iran has retaliated for the American bombing of nuclear facilities over the weekend, but is also indicating it's prepared to step back from escalating tensions in this volatile region.
CP24's Phil Perkins joins us live with the latest developments, and there's a message here for Canadians in the Middle East as well, Phil.
Yeah, for sure. We're going to talk about people who live in the area and we're trying to get back home or leave, specifically when it comes to the airspace itself and, you know, our planes flying right now. We'll get you an update in 2 seconds of this after Iran attacking the U.S. Al Udeid Air Base as based in Qatar. It provides command control for air power across the Middle East and one of the largest fleets in the world. And as Andrew mentioned, this is retaliation for the surprise attack the U.S. Conducted against 3 of the key nuclear sites in Iran, and Iran retaliating in this way. President Donald Trump going on Truth Social, calling this a very weak response. He confirmed that 14 missiles were fired, 13 knocked down, 1 was set free. He confirmed that no Americans or Qataris were injured in this attack. He goes on to say, it's a very lengthy statement, but he goes on to say that he hopes that the Iranians got this out of their system. There could be no further hate. I want to thank Iran for giving us early notice, which made it possible for no lives to be lost and nobody to be injured. Now, we spoke with retired Major General David Fraser last half hour. He talked about how this was basically a move to appease the Iranian people, that, you know, we can't just sit back and do nothing, got to do something, but not, you know, poke the dragon that is the U.S. And so here is more from Major General.
This is what Iran was expected to do. It looks good in front of their population. They also are alleged to have provided some advance warning that they were going to do this to try to mitigate the threat. So that should be enough at this stage of the game to set the conditions, if the United States accepts that, to bring people back to the table to start talking about how we're going to end this.
In terms of people who live in the area, obviously it was a very volatile airspace, really, for anyone taking any of the airlines in the area, and flights were grounded. Qatar Airways saying just a couple of minutes ago that flights have been reinstated in the region. Back to you, too.
All right, Phil Perkins live in our newsroom with the very latest on this situation in the Middle East. Thank you for this, Phil. You're watching Live at 5. Want to point out it feels like 43 out there if you factor in the humidity.
Coming up, well, it was a really, really good night despite the heat for the Oklahoma City Thunder last night, and someone Toronto can claim.
Welcome back. The Oklahoma City Thunder are NBA champions.
For the first time, the NBA champion resides in Oklahoma City.
And Toronto-born, Hamilton-raised Shai Gilgeous-Alexander leading OKC to their first ever title, downing the Pacers 103-91 in Game 7. SGA, as he's known, had a game-high 29 points along with 12 rebounds, and he was named the NBA Finals MVP. OKC finished the regular season, too, with the best record in the league, 68-14.
Of course, that strained calf. He's in pain, so emotional.
And the Pacers were dealt a blow early in the game. Star Tyrese Halliburton went down with a lower leg injury in the first quarter and had to be helped off the court. He did not return, and his father telling reporters that it was an Achilles tendon injury. Ouch. TSN's Josh Lewenberg says SGA had one of the greatest single seasons in NBA history.
There's only 4 players in NBA history that have won the MVP, the scoring title, the NBA championship, and now Finals MVP. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Michael Jordan, Shaquille O'Neal, and now Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. So he's in great company, rare company. And look, I have seen enough to say with confidence that this is the greatest Canadian basketball player ever. And that's no disrespect to the great Steve Nash, a two-time MVP. But look, Shea just did something that Nash never did, leading his team to a championship.
Better than Steve Nash. High praise there. Wow. 5:59. It is 43 degrees with that humidity. You've been watching Live at 5 on CP24.
And we continue to talk about that intense heat wave, which continues to grip the GTA and most of southern Ontario. We'll leave you with this live look at the conditions. It's been a record-breaking Monday in the city as Toronto reaches the highest recorded temperature in almost a decade. Officials warning this heat and humidity can be dangerous.
Thank you so much for watching. CTV News at 6 is next.